Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And welcome into the program, everyone. I hope that you're having a great day and you are ready for today's segment. Because today's segment, as I'm sure, because now we're chopping these things up, it's not just today's show, but today's segment indeed. It's Ralph Bond. He is, of course, our resident science and tech trends correspondent. And yeah, he's going to be here every Friday that we can get him. And less stories, but more digestible, and it's always a lot of fun. Always happy to get more Ralph into everyone's lives. So everyone, welcome back into the program, computeramerica.com. That will have everything, including show notes, past shows, future shows, articles, reviews. We just put an article up pretty recently about let's see, that was all the whole Wi-Fi sensing thing. And we have a review, although we did a review, and I don't do this often, but it was of a product that we're actually not going to post that one because it didn't work too well. So instead of saying this product is a bad product, it's more like this product doesn't work, and that's not a fair review. But everyone, there's lots of content there. You can definitely check that out. In the meantime, let's go ahead, bring on our friend, and get things going. So everyone, he's, of course, way back when, the voice of Intel Digital Minute. He, of course, does WKEX there, and he joins us every Friday to do our segment on stories that you may not have heard of, and it's always a lot of fun. Everyone, let's go ahead, bring into the program the one, the only, Mr. Ralph Bond. Ralph, how you doing? Yeah, it's there you go, and silence. There we go. Okay. Now, happy that you could join us. I hope that you're doing well, and I'm really looking forward to the stories that you have because you've been working on these all week, and you have a good collection.
Yeah, they're pretty fun. There's some wild mix of stuff, and that's what I do. Is I go out and I kind of monitor a whole bunch of different news services, looking for these science and technology. Usually, they're futuristic, trend-oriented. Not always. New developments, new procedures in medicine, and so forth and so on. Try to bring that together, and stuff that a lot of times flies under the radar. It's just stuff that doesn't percolate up to the mass media press. So that's what I want to do, is share this sort of stuff so that we can raise awareness for some of this really great research that's going on in the world.
Absolutely. And I know that we have not covered any of these stories here on the program, but yeah, I'm looking, actually there was one that I saw, but I didn't really understand. So I'm glad that you came on the show and you're going to break it down, because that's going to be the last story. That was story number 5, which everyone, I think, is going to get a great kick out of that. But
yes, that's funny.
Let's stick with story number 1 though.
Yeah. So what we've got first up to do today is scientists create the world's thinnest magnet. Say that again. Scientists create the world's thinnest magnet. And you might say, well, okay, that's nice. What the heck's that for? Well, you're going to find out. The source here is the University of California, Berkeley news release. And of course, there's a link in the show notes. And by the way, the show notes, everybody be sure to get them, because it'll have the links, has images and so forth. If you want to dig deeper into a story, you can. And by the way, what I do is just sort of a Reader's Digest, super condensed, highest level points of a story. If you want to dig deeper into the science, you need those links. So anyway, going back to the story, here's the deal. Oh, there's a video too, by the way, in the show notes. There's a link. So it's definitely time to geek out. For decades, scientists have searched for ways to make thinner and smaller 2D magnets to enable digital data to be stored at much higher density than currently possible. So this has been something that's been like the big goal for many decades. Right now, the magnetic component of today's digital memory devices is typically made of magnetic thin films. At the atomic level, Today's magnetic thin films are three-dimensional with a thickness of hundreds or thousands of atoms. And this thickness limits the amount of data that can be stored. So here's the setup for what the challenge is. But now, a team of scientists from the Department of Energy's Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory and the University of California, Berkeley, have created an ultra-thin magnet made of a single atomic layer of zinc oxide atoms combined with some oxygen and cobalt atoms. So remember, we were talking about hundreds or thousands of atoms thick as the typical depth or thickness of magnets. Now they've got a single atomic layer. So here we go. More about why this is important. This breakthrough could lead to a new generation of higher density, super compact, Spintronics-based memory devices. Now, time out. I needed to learn about this myself.
Spintronic.
Yeah. Spintronics refers to using the spin of an electron to represent binary data, of course, 0 or 1. So in addition to much higher data storage capacity, Spintronics memory devices using this new single atomic layer magnetic thin films would offer much higher speed while requiring less power than today's conventional memory technologies. And as mentioned earlier before, greater storage, data storage capacity when you take these single atomic layer magnetic films and you combine them together into a single memory device, you're going to get faster performance and greater storage capacity. So this is really a very important breakthrough. Is it on the market right now? Of course not. This has just been, relatively in the last month or so announced. So we'll see how this goes and where it goes. But it's pretty cool stuff.
And that's like the three categories that technology, is kind of sitting on, which is efficiency, speed, and I guess kind of, well, not really thickness. I mean, there's a lot of cell phones that are thin, but still for storage, at least, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the fact that this ticks all three and can improve all three, I'm betting the last one that isn't, kind of ticked off here is cost. And obviously research stage. But, you had a story, I think, last week that dealt with, zinc oxide. That seems to be coming up more and more as a topic of research. Like whatever zinc oxide actually is, it seems to be making a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
No. And of course, you'll love to see it. I hope to see that they do this because, storage capacity is huge and, we need it. So story number one, and thank you for introducing Spintronics into my lexicon. I've never heard that before. So.
Well, yeah, I just, you can dig really deep into Spintronics and that's pretty darned interesting. The whole bit about a spinning electron as your binary on and off indicator. It's just like, what? That was so cool. It sounds cool too, Spintronics. Although my toddler grandchildren, they can do Spintronics really well.
and they can do it much more obvious. So with that, story number one, story number two, yet again, small, miniature, and this is great.
Yeah, this is fun. And one of the things I love to do is look for medical technology advances. And that's also something that really often flies under the radar of mainstream news coverage. So this story comes from medgadget.com, a really fun website. Check it out, folks. Story by Con Hastings. And the headline is New Wireless Electronic Sensor to Monitor Bone Health. And the link is there. There's a picture and so forth. You can see, but in the picture, you'll see that the little device in question is really just about the size of a penny. But here's the story. So today, it's difficult for doctors to monitor precisely how a bone is healing. So you have broken bone, you have it reset and so forth, but they'd like to monitor how well it's binding, how it's progressing and so forth. Recently, engineers and orthopedic specialists at the University of Arizona built a tiny wireless sensor about the size of a penny, as I mentioned in the show notes, have the picture, designed to monitor bone health over long periods of time. So part of this research goal was to deal with very severe bone issues that may require months and months of monitoring for proper healing and so forth. So it's not just your routine little broken arm, and it's more for serious injury situations. Right. But anyway, the battery-free device measures a variety of physiological factors such as temperature and bone strain. interesting about temperature. I wouldn't have thought about temperature being something you'd need to monitor. But anyway, this device, again, monitors things like temperature and bone strain, so the pressure on the bone in question, and could be useful for patients with osteoporosis or to monitor healing and guide rehabilitation after a fracture. The wireless sensor could also help with clinical decisions, such as when to remove plates or screws from a bone. I can personally relate to this. This little guy right here, this finger,
I remember
was
that.
broken clean with a dog walking accident. Every surgeon, every expert I talked to, I had to have 2 pins put in here and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Here's your public service announcement. I digress. The nurses, every ER, everybody said, never, ever hold a dog leash by the loop. Because if that dog takes off, your natural inclination is to grab on and try to restrain. That's how I broke this finger. Now I have a special pad-like thing at the base of the loop of the handle of the dog leash, and I hold it with both hands like this. There's my public service announcement for you.
I never, and I guess the way you're supposed to, like you hook that loop over your wrist, I guess is supposed to be, kind of the thing. But your solution sounds much less pins and finger inducing.
Oh boy, yeah. Anyway, we digress.
Yes.
So, the wireless sensor could also help with clinical decisions, as we were just saying, such as when to remove plates and screws from a bone. That's when I went offline here with my finger story. And here's something that's really cool. The device is attached to the bone surface using a calcium adhesive, which causes the bone to grow and fuse with the device for long-term implantation. So again, the real motivation for this device is for serious situations where the recovery is long-term and or osteoporosis patients and so forth for monitoring and so on. But what a clever thing this is. And the fact that it says it's battery-free was interesting too, because I couldn't quite figure out, all right, how is this thing working if there's no source for transmission of data? But nonetheless, that's the scoop.
It's definitely a new application to this technology. I've never really heard of that. And I could, by the way, guess temperature, maybe to look for infection, because obviously if it's infected, it might heat up. That whole thing.
That's a thought. Yeah,
maybe. But as for the no power thing, we've seen other applications for heart monitoring and other organs. They use essentially like near field communication. So just like you can pay with your debit card and that kind of thing just by tapping it. They can actually supply power to it wirelessly through your skin, and otherwise it remains dormant and not powered. And then when you scan it, Ralph, that's when it gets powered up and it sends the readings. So.
Yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah, very, very cool. And of course, individual bone health, like you said, I'm sure as you saw firsthand, it's not as much science as it is just, kind of best guess. But hey, this is definitely advancing it in that way. Now, you have another story from MedGadget. You have a new website. I don't recall if you have MedGadget before, but they seem to do a lot of great stories.
Yes, I couldn't resist this one. I know we're doing two things from the same source in this show, but it's such cool stuff. It's well worth it. And again, I highly recommend MedGadget. So the headline here is, sometimes what I do with the headlines is I don't literally often reproduce the exact headline of the article in question. I kind of humanize it a little bit sometimes. Right. But anyway, it says, so now there's a new miniaturized brain imaging system in the form of a lightweight helmet. And again, from MedGadget, we've got a picture of the helmet here. We've got the link. And right off the top, I wanted to say, this is not the world's first helmet-based scanning system, but it's a really interesting one. And you're showing the video, which is great, by the way. It shows how it's adjusted and so on. And again, the link for the video is in the show notes. So here's the story. California-based company Kernel, that's Kernel, has developed a helmet called the Kernel Flow that can perform time, domain, functional, near-infrared spectroscopy imaging of the brain. And I said, okay, what is that? So I looked that up. It's time domain function near infrared spectroscopy is a non-invasive brain imaging technique that measures blood oxygenation changes and blood flow in real time, allowing doctors to access important physiological diagnostic information. So the key there is real time. To date, and when you do this, if you do a search on time domain functional near infrared spectroscopy machines, you're going to see a whole bunch of forms of it. And most of these systems that perform this brain imaging process have been large desktop or small, relatively small roll around refrigerator size, like the small refrigerator system,
Right.
with multiple wires connecting to sensors to a head cap worn by the patient. So the point is that a lot of these systems that are out there today are bulky. They're not portable. They wouldn't be very convenient if you had to do something out in the field and so on. So although not the first of its kind to come to market, the new kernel flow helmet is representative, and that's the key here, of a rapidly emerging crop of game-changing, much smaller, self-contained, and portable alternatives. And the helmet in question weighs just 4.4 pounds. And the helmet consists of 4 plates that contain 52 modules, which each contain 2 laser sources. And this is really interesting. The rapid laser pulses pass through the scalp, and skull, and a series of 6 detectors to generate the brain images. And that's something I tried to learn a little bit more about. I think what's going on is the laser pulse comes, and then it's the bounce back that's read by the device, and that creates the image. I believe I have that right. I hope so, in the simplest sense.
Sounds right.
So here's a reality check. The Kernel Flow Helmet team says refinements are still needed to account for different hair types and skin types, which is curious to me. How would hair or skin, if it's a laser, have an impact? But that was in the story. So it's there's still some work to be done. But the top of the line model, wow, this is not inexpensive stuff, but I guess these machines, like the roll around ones I was telling you, aren't cheap either. But this one is $99,200. That's the top of the line model. But I think what's so interesting, Ben, to me, and you and I see it every day that goes on, smaller, more portable, equally powerful to things that used to be gigantic systems. So it's a cool breakthrough.
Yeah, and like you said, $100,000 for something that weighs 4 pounds seems very expensive. But Ralph, probably 4 years ago, you couldn't spend any amount of money to get something like this because this didn't exist. So I'm sure someone out there is thinking, "Wow, what a steal! This is going to be a game changer." But hey, like they said, improvements, and Ralph, I can only guess that if you're measuring such minor changes in the brain, kind of just as you're scanning it, any little thing makes a difference. Skin, body weight, moisture, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It all matters. It really does. So that's very, very cool, though. I've not heard of that. That was story number 3. Story number 4 may hit a little bit closer to home because, this is going to be, this might be coming to a store near you, and you might actually have to use it.
Yeah. And again, this was from a mainstream source, CNBC, story by Chris Morris.
I've heard of them.
And even though it was a mainstream source, I don't recall seeing it on main television, like the 6 o'clock news or whatever. Yeah. But I think it's very important. So what we're talking about, folks, here's the headline here. Key trend to watch. Walmart and other Fortune 500 companies are now using virtual reality to train the next generation of American workers. I just thought this was a really interesting trend story. So when you say virtual reality, most of us, like me, I immediately think of video gamers wearing large headsets, as we all know, that cover their eyes while using motion and direction controllers in their hands to navigate total immersion 3D games. So that's what we usually think of. But virtual reality, or of course VR for short, is not just for fun and games. A key trend to watch is the rapid adoption of VR by American businesses to train employees, and I'm sure businesses around the world as well. But this focused on U.S. companies. So several Fortune 500 companies, including Boeing, UPS, and Walmart, are using VR for worker education and training programs. UPS, for example, and this is fun, you can just imagine this. UPS, for example, uses VR headsets, and I'm sure they have steering wheel joysticks and so forth to augment this, but uses VR headsets to help drivers learn to spot a variety of potential traffic hazards as they drive down virtual roads. I would love to see a video of that alone. Walmart is, and it goes on to say that Walmart is arguably the leader when it comes to VR training, which a lot of times you don't think of Walmart, as being kind of on the outer edge of technology. Although I think what they've done with their website and dealing with becoming a kind of an Amazon-like website resource. If you haven't checked out Walmart.com, you should. It's pretty impressive. But anyway, Walmart is arguably the leader when it comes to VR training. Last year, the retailer started using VR at its 220 Walmart employee training academies around the United States. 220. Who knew? I had no idea Walmart had this kind of thing going on. And here's the good news. Companies report seeing retention rates and productivity numbers rise when they use VR as a training tool. And in this economy right now, we all know it's very difficult in the service industries and the retail industries, the restaurants and so forth, to get people and then to retain them. So anything that could help retain employees, as this article concludes, is a big win. So cool stuff that VR is doing now.
VR definitely gives you that real world scenario to kind of test and train. And by the way, I found a video of UPS drivers.
Cool.
Kind of working
there
with
you
VR.
Go.
So we'll watch that in the background. But
that's great.
My point with that kind of, Ralph, was that you also kind of take the pressure, because it's not like you're throwing them out into the store around customers and, the high stress situation of the job. You are training them, and then they can, be prepared. So, and of course, this video is also going into drones as well, that UPS has been promising to take drones from their delivery vehicles and just drop it off at your door. So maybe one day.
Why not?
Yeah, maybe soon. Now, from training the employees to better serve customers, you now have VR to train your cows to provide better milk, I assume?
Yes, well, sort of. Sort of. And this story is so whack. On the first blush, you'd think, okay, Ralph's doing a joke story.
The image of the cow did go viral, and it's so, just catch the picture. It's hilarious.
It is really great. So here we go. A headline here, and this, by the way, comes from the United Kingdom's Sun newspaper. And a dairy farmer in Turkey outfitted 2 of his cows with virtual reality headsets, because they had to do 2 because of the physical shape of the cow's head, to see if their milk output in the winter would increase. So let's get into this. I know this sounds too wacky to be real, but this is actually true. A dairy farmer in Turkey had a problem. During the winter, when his herd is cooped up in barns, milk production goes down. The Turkish farmer's barn-confined cows were producing only 5.8 gallons a day, much less than when his cows are outside in the pasture in the summertime or spring or what have you. What if he could make his cows think they're out in a beautiful pasture? Would that increase milk output? Using custom VR headsets developed with veterinarians and first tested on a farm in Moscow. So this guy wasn't the first guy to come up with this. The Russians were actually doing this, and he kind of tapped into their research and their collaboration with the veterinarians. And what they did is they outfitted 2 of the Turkish farmers' cows with a VR goggle for each eye of the cow in question to see what might happen. And you have to see the photo of the cows wearing the goggles. It's hilarious, as we just pointed out a moment ago. Okay, so I did some research on my own and learned that dairy cows here in the United States, for example, produce on average at least 7.5 gallons of milk per day. And the other farmers' cows were only cooped up in the barn, were doing 5.8 gallons. So that's a significant difference. After using the experimental VR system, the milk output from the 2 test cows jumped from 5.8 up to 7.1 gallons a day, almost the level in the US of our cows at 7.5 gallons a day. The farmer says he plans to buy 10 more VR headsets, as he's convinced, and I think this is really kind of funny, he's convinced that the 2 test cows experienced an emotional boost and were less stressed. We could all use that. Here's something interesting I learned from the story. Cows don't see colors the way we do. Cows are colorblind to red and green. So the developers of the VR software used for this experiment had to create a unique outside pasture 3D simulation that adjusts the color tones to ensure the environment would look natural to the cows. I just love it.
A lot of thought went into how to get cows into VR, and Ralph, the irony is not lost to me that Moss Cow is getting the most out of their cows using VR research. That just something about that. You're right. This whole story, the pictures alone make it, but I'm glad that he's seeing some kind of benefit. It does kind of get into like the the dystopian era, Ralph, where it's like, well, if it works on a cow, would it work on a human? Like, do cubicle workers suddenly start working in VR in beautiful surroundings instead of little cubicles, and they are more productive? I don't know.
Or think about patients or folks that are in rest homes or assisted care homes or something like that, and maybe they're having dementia problems or something. Could VR help these people? Would they even wear these goggles? I don't know. I mean, we've just
a lot of potential.
Slightly scratched the surface of the potential of VR.
Okay,
it's unbelievable.
Definitely. The last fun fact I'll leave everyone with, because I knew this off the top of my head, but I'll ask you, Ralph. So cows are colorblind. I did not know that. That is something you taught me. The other side of the spectrum, when it comes to the animal kingdom, do you know which animal sees the most color?
Oh gosh,
sees the most color, not the least color.
I think you actually told me this once before, or I saw it somewhere. I do not, but it's a surprise. Is it something like shrimp or something crazy?
Exactly. You're very right. The mantis shrimp. So humans, of course, we have I think it's 3 cones that see like red, green, and blue, and that forms all of our colors. Mantis shrimp have 16 cones, so they see colors that we can only imagine. They see the most colors of any animal in the animal kingdom. So the mantis shrimp. Something? If you had to make a VR goggle for a mantis shrimp, that'd be much harder because they're so tiny. But
well, if we can't see those colors, how would you program it?
Exactly. Now you're getting into philosophy. But Ralph, that is all the stories, and you did really, really well. I mean, everything from medical to just everyday kind of life. This was a lot of fun. I want to thank you so much for doing that.
Hey, it's always a blast.
Yeah, definitely. And everyone, once again, we'll have this in the show notes. We'll have a link to Ralph's website. And of course, if you go to YouTube, we have a whole section dedicated directly to Ralph. And Ralph, I'm looking forward to the next week. And I really, really like the hey, I think in a month we're getting actually more stories than we normally do, but much more digestible. This is perfect. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.